we're delighted to be able to have the double doctor, I call him the double doctor, Sam Chan, with us this morning. Please welcome Sam as he comes up. And it's lovely to have you with us, Sam. Now, you kind of live and work close by. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I'm a Western Suburbs boy at heart. I grew up in Campbelltown, went to Campbelltown Primary School. I also was a medical student at Westmead Hospital. I lived 2 years in a hospital accommodation complex as a student, and then 4 years as a doctor. So, and I worked at Blacktown and Mount Druitt. And so I feel like a homecoming when I come here, but it's so renovated right now. I feel like I'm coming back to a dream. Like, I can't recognise Westfield, I can't recognise the streets.
You're telling me just before you got lost inside Westfield, recently.
I could not get out. The whole thing's engineered that you cannot get out. I was actually late for a speaking appointment like this. I thought I'd just park the car in Westfield and walk out. No, you cannot walk out of Westfield. I could not work out how to do it.
Right. Now, I remember you telling me you play, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention this here, but you played an AFL game, a parents' AFL game recently. And you know, what happened?
My boys play AFL, and at the end of the year, they have a parents' side, play the under 16s, under 18s. What could go wrong? Well, of course, everything goes wrong. And I'm a rugby player, and AFL players drive me nuts because they can't tackle properly. They tackle like kangaroo players, and then when there's a bouncing ball, they paddle it. I feel like just fall on it and grab it like we would in rugby. Now I know why you don't fall on the ball, because when I went to fall on the ball, I collected a knee on the way down. So like I headed someone's knee. He didn't knee me, I headed his knee, and it just gashed the whole head open, hit some artery. So they had to call an ambulance. Ambulance comes on the field. I was red from top to toe. And the ambulance only later realised, oh, you had a white jersey. They thought I had a red jersey. And they did the whole concussion test. And I've been concussed so many times as a rugby player. I know how to do the drill, because you don't ever want to be subbed off. So you can't let on you're concussed. And they go, what date is it? I went, that's easy. It's 1990. And so I said, I realised, you don't know what the date is. But then you just play on, just kidding, I got you guys. And then they go, it's, and they go, 20, whatever. I go, yeah, that's the one. I remember from rugby, they say, how many fingers do you see? If you wait long enough, they go, 2. You go, yeah, 2. And they go, he's all right. In fact, there's a whole game where all I remember is, he's all right, put him back on. That's all I remember from the whole game. Now, we have a saying in rugby, if you remember the names of your kids, you didn't play hard enough.
Now, you're going to refer that in your talk in a moment, but also, you told me in your work as a doctor, which you still do, right?
Yeah.
You hold the leg. What do you mean?
Yeah, so I work 1 or 2 days a week still as a doctor out at Norwest, Borkham Hills, Lakeview. I'm a surgical assistant. And then what is a surgical assistant? Well, after the operation, you get 3 bills from the doctors. First one's the surgeon, second one's the anaesthetist. Who's the bozo sending me a 3rd bill? That is me, the surgical assistant. I hold your leg. Just like a mechanic needs someone to hold the bonnet of the car while they change your oil, I hold your leg while the surgeon operates on it. So I've got the most important job. We're always worried we're going to do the wrong side. We're saying which side, which side, which side. Then they put you to sleep, and it all comes down to which side I pick up first. And I wasn't there.
How many times have you been able to say which side?
Only twice, right? But yeah, it's a 50-50, and I think if you're 50-50, you're doing all right. And we do throw the other side in free.
Well, that's great. Well, this is Sam, and we're going to hear from him in just a moment. But Sam's actually asked that we read a short passage from a biography about the life of Jesus written by Luke. And I'm going to ask Jeffrey Brown, who's the chairman of Matthew Spalby, who, along with Principal Stephen Mueller, is our host today, very fun host. So, Jeffrey, would you mind coming up, please, and reading that passage? You'll find it inside your outlines, or the link is posted in the chat. Thanks.
No worries. Let's spend some time in God's Word. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. Zacchaeus stood up and said to the rest of the crowd, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because of this man too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost."
So what scared you the most about school? Was it the homework? Was it the study? Well, if you're an Asian like me, what scared you the most was PE. Especially that moment where they get 2 captains down the front and they have to choose a side. They look at you, but they pick someone else. They look at you again, but they pick someone else. And only when you're the last one there will they pick you. It was so humiliating. It robbed you of value, dignity, and respect. But it's a question that lasts for the rest of our lives. Like, if no one wants me, why do I matter? So welcome to February. In this month, we're going to have a series of talks, which we're titling a road map to life. And today we're asking this question, dignity. Why do I matter? And we're going to spend 15 minutes trying to answer this question now, and we'll have a time of Q&A afterwards. Dignity, why do I matter? It's an important question. If no one wants me, why do I matter? Especially if I'm just atoms and molecules. I'm just a blip in the timeline of this universe. I'm just another species of life on this planet. Why? Why do I matter? And if there are 8 billion of us in the world, why do I matter? And it's worse if you're Chinese, because it's not just that there's a lot of us, but we all look the same. So think, why do I matter? It's the question that drives us. If no one wants me, why do I matter? Where do I find my value, dignity, worth, and respect? Well, we're going to try to answer this now, and I think we only have 4 options. So let's go through these options. Where do I find value, worth, and respect? Well, option number 1 is this. I matter because of what others say about me. If there was a fire, what would be, and you're only allowed to take one thing out of your house, what would you take out of your house? This is what I would take. It's a trophy. It's a beer mug. And you can't read it, but engraved on it, it says this: Sydney University Football Club, best forward, 5th grade, 1995, Santan. Because this trophy validates me. It says that a short little Asian took on the big Aussies at their own game, and he was the best forward. It validates me. And Hugh Mackay, social commentator Australian, says the same thing. In his book, What Makes Us Tick, the top 10 desires that drive us, he says the number 1 desire that drives us is the desire to be recognized, to be validated, to be somebody, to be noticed, to be respected. It is his number 1 desire that drives the tennis champion, that drives the business person, the philanthropist, the school bully, and the specialist. This is the desire that drives us, the desire to be noticed, respected, liked, to be somebody. A few years ago, I finally got onto social media. I resisted it for years, but, work said, we need you on social media to promote, the events. Okay, so I get on it. I suddenly think, this thing is amazing. I'm checking in on everybody. I wake up in the morning, I'm on social media. On the train, I'm on social media. At work, I'm on social media. At home, I'm on social media. In bed, the last thing I'm doing before I check out is I'm on social media. My wife hates it. She says, we never talk anymore. So I signed her up for a Facebook account. And so now she's connected and she can message me. But we all know the point of social media isn't just a post. It's the likes. There's no point posting if no one likes your post. Every time you post, you check back. You look for the likes, you look for the likes. And if there aren't enough likes, you sort of delete the post because it's a little bit awkward. But there's a problem. We're looking for value, dignity, and respect in what others say about us. Because you're going to say to me, Sam, have a look at your rugby trophy. Look at what it says again. It says Sydney University Football Club. It doesn't say New South Wales Waratahs. It doesn't say the Australian Wallabies. And then it says best forward. Aren't the Fords those slow, fat guys? Shouldn't you be a back there, the good-looking guys that are fast and do all the scoring? And it says fifth grade, fifth grade. How many grades were there? You were in the lower side. 1995, that is 25 years ago. Let it go. Time to move on. And that's the problem with trophies and achievements. Sooner or later, there's a bell curve big enough that we become a nobody again. Soon enough, there's a fishbowl big enough that we're the smallest fish in the pond again. You know, I lived the Asian dream. I studied hard. I got into medicine at Sydney University, and suddenly realized, no, this isn't the top of the mountain. This is just base camp. You can't just be a doctor. You have to be a specialist. You can't just be a specialist. You have to be a surgeon. You can't just be a surgeon. You have to be an orthopedic surgeon. You can't just be an orthopedic surgeon. You have to be a knee surgeon. You can't just be a knee surgeon. Yeah, it has to be in a big city teaching hospital. Oh, and then you have to research. You have to publish. You have to go to conferences. The mountain keeps moving further and further away. And even if you climb the mountain, suddenly there's no one there to say, well done. I might need a new clicker. There's some blue window on it.
I'll do it back to it. Is that right?
Awesome. And even if you climb the mountain, suddenly there's no one there to say, well done. We never get the respect we want from those we need it the most. So that's the problem with option number one, matching because of what others say about us. But now we have option number two. I matter because of what I say about myself. It doesn't matter what others say about me. In the end, it matters only what I think about myself. 2020 was the year where we had to do Zoom meetings, and we all got good on Zoom meetings. By then, we knew how to get the lighting right. We dressed up. We got a good background. But, you know, after a while, we stopped caring, didn't we? We thought, you know what? I don't care about the lighting. I'm going to just wear my tracksuit pants and my pajamas. I'm just going to eat in front of the camera. And I'm going to have my dirty laundry in the background. Because, you know what? This is who I am. And if they don't like me for who I am, they got the problem. And this is where we look at self-validation. You know what? It doesn't matter what others think about me. In the end, the only thing that matters is what I think about myself. And this is the message of Hollywood. You do you. Don't worry about what others say. In the end, you do what you want to make yourself happy. The only thing that matters is what you think about yourself. But the problem with this option is even Hollywood doesn't agree with its own message. Because Hollywood say you do you, but you know, in the end, you have to be amazing. I just watched the movie Babe. Babe says, you know what? You're a pig, but don't worry. You can be whatever you want to be. If you want to be a sheepdog, make yourself happy. But in the end, it matters that Babe was an amazing sheepdog and had to win the sheepdog trials. High School Musical, Zac Efron, he's a jock, he's a basketball player. Hey, but he wants to sing in a High School Musical. But, you know, in the end, it matters that he has to be amazing at musicals and he has to win the respect of his father and basketball team. Queen's Gambit. You know what? If you want to play chess, go for it. Don't worry about old-fashioned traditions. You do whatever you want to be happy. But you know what? It does matter that you're amazing. You're amazingly good-looking and you're amazing at chess. In there, you still have to be amazing. Doesn't matter just what you think about yourself. You have to be amazing. And here's the problem. Even if we are amazing, we're the last ones to say so ourselves. We are our own worst critics. We don't like who we are, and we won't forgive ourselves. We are the ones who won't accept ourselves for who we are. We're not the people we want to be. Will Storr, UK writer in his book Selfie, How We Became So Obsessed and What It's Doing to Us, argues the same point. We've created a culture of perfectionism where even we can never be good enough for ourselves. All right, so that option's not good enough. What about a third option? Option number 3 is this. I matter because I have rights. If you go to a pub right now and you order a schooner VB, you probably pay about $8. Give or take a few bucks. It's going to be $8. It's not going to be 8 cents. It's not going to be $800. No, it's going to be about $8. Why is this $8? Why? Because of convention. This is what we have agreed to pay for a schooner of beer. Why do I matter? Because of human rights. Where did human rights come from? Well, many years ago, nations got together and they agreed on the United Nations Charter that says we have inherent human rights. So no matter who we are, we have inherent human worth and dignity. So we all have a right to education, no matter what the colour of our skin is. We all have a right to health, no matter what our abilities or disabilities. We all have a right to justice and fairness and equality, no matter what our sex or gender is. Why? Because we have inherent human rights. We have value, worth, and dignity. But the problem with this approach is someone can say, hey, hang on, that's just an arbitrary social convention that you've come up with. It's like backyard cricket. My boys love backyard cricket, but they come up with the strangest rules in backyard cricket. They're playing one hand, one bounce, but they're also playing, you got to hit a boundary every over, otherwise you're out. You go, whoa, who comes up with this rule? And they say, well, this is our backyard. This is our rules. And that's the problem with human rights. Some say, hey, come on, this is your backyard. These rules don't apply in my backyard. This is an arbitrary social convention. Even worse, it is an arbitrary Western social convention that you're forcing upon us. This is another form of Western colonialism, imperialism. There is no such thing as human rights. This is Yuval Noah Harari. He's a secular Jewish philosopher. He's written bestsellers like Homo Deus, Homo Sapiens, and he argues the same thing. He says, you know what? Human rights, that's what he calls a useful fictional story. Useful because it helps us all get along, but you know what? In the end, it's only fictional. There is no such thing as human rights. It's just an arbitrary social convention that we've come up with. All right, so if option 3 isn't good enough, let's try option 4. Option 4 is this. I matter because of what Jesus says about me. And in that Bible reading that we just had, we got the story of Jesus. And I always tour the internet trying to think if Jesus was around today, what would he look like? And this year I've come up with this photo, I think, because, you know, he was ethnic, he was tan, probably a little bit podgy because he loved his eating and drinking, slightly funky, edgy, iconoclastic. I'm still waiting for the day the guy turns up here and says, hey, that's my photo. What are you doing that for? And I go, hey, it's Jesus. Jesus really did come back. How about that? Anyway, I think Jesus around today, this is what he will look like. And in the story, he meets a man called Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus made his millions through bribery and fraud, but he doesn't like who he's become. Maybe he was old, maybe he's young, but he's got no social capital. He's nobody to the crowds. They don't like him. But Jesus comes right up to Zacchaeus and says, hey, I'm coming to your place and we're going to eat. We're going to have a meal. Jesus gives the equivalent of a divine bro hug. He says, hey, I'm coming to your place. We're going to be buddies. You're a child of God. In fact, salvation has come upon this house. Now, just think about it. Zacchaeus wouldn't matter to us, but Zacchaeus matters to Jesus. And we also matter to Jesus. Because in this story, Jesus is saying this, I became your species of life. I took on your atoms and molecules. I invited myself into your life. I died for you. I saved you. I live for you. And you can, if you trust me, worship me, and love me, you can be part of Team Jesus. And you can live for me as Jesus lives for you. So do you remember our original question today? It was this: dignity. Why do I matter? If no one wants me, why do I matter? Where do I find my value, worth, and respect and dignity? I went on Google Maps and I Googled my house So this is street view of my house. I thought, you are kidding me. Of all the days for the car or the camera to drive past, it's the day I did the council cleanup. So it's got all the rubbish and trash out the front of my house. But then I looked at the rubbish and trash. I thought, look at that. We once spent thousands of dollars on that stuff. That once had value and respect in a house. But now it's just junk that we're just junking out on our front lawn. See, value comes and goes. And that's the problem with our value. If we base our value on what others say, on what we say, on our trophies, on our achievements, that will come, but that will also go. I spoke at a conference and I met a young man who asked me a question. He said, hey, why do I matter? Why am I special? And I knew a bit about this person's backstory. I knew that he gets bullied at school. His dad left him when he was young. He studies very hard, but can never get the marks that he wants. And I said to him, you're special because there's a God who loves you, who made you, who saves you. And he sent his son, Jesus, the Son of God, to become one of us. And Jesus died on the cross to save us in our place. And now he lives for us. And we can be part of Team Jesus and live for him. And he said to me, yeah, but that's just words. That's just an arbitrary thing. That's that positive thinking gobbledygook. And I said to him, yeah, you're right. That is just words unless it really happened. Unless 2,000 years ago, Jesus really did come. He did become our species of life. He did take on our atoms and molecules. And just like he did as a kid, he invites himself into our life to affirm us, to say we can be part of Team Jesus, the kingdom of God, where there's a God who dies for us, who lives for us, and we can live for him as he lives for us.
Well, thanks very much, Sam. We'll just give Sam a chance to catch his breath. This is the part where you get to participate and ask your questions. So you'll see there's a mobile number on the front of the sheet, or it's posted in the chat. So please text your questions through and I'll get them here. I can ask Sam in a moment. I've already got some. And also just to let you know that on the back of the form is QR code. This is not to do with COVID. This is a link to a SurveyMonkey quick survey where you can give some feedback if you wish. So you can take out your phone and do that as we let Sam catch his breath. So Sam, I won't get you up. And just to let you know, Ron, we will finish by 10 to 2. So in time to get back to the office or court or the coffee shop, wherever you're going next. Right, Sam, we'll start with this one. It's a question from Melbourne about human rights. Can I start with that one?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Okay. Surely human rights are recognising what is obvious, so hence not so arbitrary. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so we can recognise them, but at the same time, they aren't that obvious. And it's that big thing of, does something exist inherently by essence, by nature, or is it something we impose upon it? And throughout the history of humankind, we debate this in philosophy, like beauty. What is beauty? To the Greeks, things are inherently beautiful by nature. So they argue things like the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, all that sort of stuff. But later, now we say, no, hang on, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's something we've imposed upon things. They don't exist by nature. We've done it with music as well. Johann Sebastian Bach thought everything could be done by mathematical formula. What makes a chord, a melody, a melody. But now we've gone, no, that's just an arbitrary Western construct. Other cultures have different scales, different tones. There's nothing inherent to nature to make music music. And human rights is the same. We have this question now, is there anything inherent to a human being that gives us value, worth, and dignity? Or is this a useful fictional story that we've come up with and come in later? And so I really think we're left with two choices. If we are just atoms and molecules, if the universe is impersonal, and we're just another species of life that this planet just vomited up, then really it's very hard to argue there is such a thing as inherent value, worth, and dignity. But if the universe is personal, if there's a God behind it who loves us, who made us, who saves us, then we have every right to believe there is such a thing as inherent human rights, value, worth, and dignity. But it's interesting, isn't it? Like we intuitively say, no, there has to be human rights. And now the latest buzzword is universal benevolence. Somehow I have responsibility to be benevolent to every human being out there, no matter how marginalized or oppressed. But again, where do we get this from? I don't see this existing in human nature and the animal kingdom. You know, bees get oppressed by wasps, and no one's crying out for bees' rights. So somehow intuitively we think, no, hang on, there is something by design which we all commonly come up with. And I think the Bible says, the Judeo-Christian heritage says, this is the image of God in us that cries out that everyone out there needs to be treated with value, worth, and respect because they bear the image of God in them. And, you know, sometimes we think, why is God so angry? You know, and think, why? I thought God was a loving God. Why is he so angry? And sometimes we say, oh, it's because we have too low a view of God. I say, no, it's because we have too low a view of humankind. Because Jesus says, as you do to the least of these, you do to me. So Jesus has such a high view of humanity. So we cheat someone, we're offensive to someone. Jesus feels offended because that person bears the image of God, the image of Jesus. That's where we have this idea of universal benevolence and inherent value, worth, and dignity of every human being.
Well, we just had a question come through. Did you just say Jedi Christian?
Jedi Christian.
What's that?
That's my Campbelltown accent, but I wish there was such a thing as Jedi Christianity.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Judeo-Christian heritage.
Well, what's that?
The fascinating thing is we all like to say, all religions are the same, different ways, looking for the same God. But what's fascinating is almost every religious tradition has a low view of human beings. Like in almost every religious tradition, humankind is like, they're a nuisance to the gods. The gods are like, these human beings, who put them here? Someone get them out of our way. And the gods are mischievous, capricious, and unkind to humans. Only in the Judeo-Christian heritage is this idea that God creates us to be special, to have a relationship with us. We're not an afterthought. We're the reason he made the universe. And it's Judeo-Christian because it's unique to the Judeo-Christian heritage. And in the Christian tradition, we have the Old Testament and the New Testament, and recognize that the Old Testament comes to us through the Judeo tradition.
So I mean, if you think from a historical perspective, was there a change in the way that people were treated post Jesus? Or did you see that filter through into society from a objective historical perspective?
Yeah, I think there's a yes and no and a both and. I think on the one hand, because as a Christian, I would argue we're all in the image of God. God's given us enough of a vibe of his truth in the universe that we can all sense the value, worth, and dignity of every individual human being. But the teachings of Jesus are very special, where he says, I died for you. And I think historians do say there was an amazing turning point where we elevate the worth of the individual after Jesus came.
All right, I've got another question coming through here. If I matter to Jesus, no matter who I am or what I do, why should I bother to improve myself?
It's that amazing dynamic. And I'll touch on this on some later talks. We want to say, I'm okay, and everyone should accept me for just who I am. But as Will Stoyce pointed out, that's where it's a culture of perfectionism, where even we ourselves say, I'm not good enough for myself, because I have to prove everyone should accept me for who I am.
So you're a doctor, but
Yeah.
do you sometimes feel that sense of, I'm not good enough?
Always.
I mean,
I'm the leg holder. I'm
Yeah.
that guy at the bottom of the hierarchy. And I shared this morning that the amazing thing was, I still remember studying for my med exams, and I used to keep failing them in first and second year to the point where I thought, I'm going to have to drop out of med school. I'm going to lose my value, worth, and dignity. I remember lying in bed at 2 a.m. before my biology exam thinking, this is it, it's all over. I'm going to have to go into full-time Christian ministry instead. That's my plan B. But the interesting thing is when I did go into Christian ministry, about the first 10 or 20 years, when someone says, what do you do? I used to always say, I used to be a doctor, but now, I'm in Christian ministry. I still found my value, worth, and dignity there in my qualifications and my university degree. It's only now I can actually say, I'm in Christian ministry. Oh, and by the way, I used to be a doctor.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's encouraging. I do understand why it fails. In terms of the
Well,
right
there's a lot
needs.
to memorize, wasn't it?
I'm sure. Okay, another question. For those who struggle with self-worth, how do we care for these people and help them to remember that they matter to Jesus?
Yeah, this is the human journey, the human struggle, where we always struggle between the ontological reality, what is, and our perception of it. So something is true, something's real, but we struggle to realize it. And God says you are special, you are loved, you are in the image of God. And for those of us who love, worship, and follow Jesus, you have the status of a child of God, which is what Jesus in the Zacchaeus story says. This man is a child of Abraham. And everyone goes, what, him really, after what he's done? Do you know how messed up he is? Jesus says, no, boom, I declare him a child of Abraham. So that's the ontological reality, the status. But Zacchaeus may find some time to grow and realize that reality for himself. I say it's like the status of being an Australian citizen. Boom, you are an Australian citizen. You say, but I don't feel very Australian. I can't understand AFL. I still don't know the second verse of the Australian national anthem. But some say, no, boom, you are Australian. That is your status. You may not feel it. And I think the Christian journey is one where Jesus says, you're loved. You have the status of a child of God. You think, I'm so broken. I'm so messed up. I'm not the person I want to be. Which is why Romans 8, the Bible says you're a child of God. You have the status, you're a co-heir with Jesus. Oh, but by the way, I'm going to put a spirit in you to help you realize that for yourself. And the spirit will cry out, Abba, Daddy, Father. So even if you can't say the words, the spirit will say the words for you. So inwardly you realize your outward reality.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Just wondering, there might be a brave person who wants to ask a question live from the floor. I'll just leave 10 seconds in case someone wants to jump in. Okay, not this week. Well, thank you. Please thank our speaker, Sam.